Delay, 2 minutes here. I'd like to call this regular meeting to order. Please join me at the pledge of allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Item B, recording the roll.
All present?
Item C, approval of the consent agenda. Are there any changes we need to be aware of?
I'll make a motion, we approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Semo, second by Commissioner Tower, to approve the consent agenda as presented. Any further discussion or concerns on this item? Roll call.
Care?
Yes.
Semo?
Yes.
Sim?
Yes.
Tower?
Yes.
Corcoran?
Yes. Item D, approval of the agenda. It is my understanding that we need to remove item N. Any further changes besides item N?
I made a motion to approve the agenda as amended.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Tower, second by Commissioner Sim to approve the agenda as amended. Any further discussions or concerns on this item? All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item E, citizens wishing to address the commission on items on the agenda. A 3-minute limit, please. If you're able, please approach the podium and state your name.
Bill Martell, 647 Huron Street. And last year I was here complaining about the dust problem about the Little League Park over here. And the four of you were here, the only one that
I'm
wasn't
going to interrupt
here
you real quick. What item is that?
on the city manager.
Okay, let's save that for towards the end of the meeting. This is for items that are on the agenda, so the commission can kind of get a feel for what
Okay,
this is.
that would be under your K,
Okay,
where you're going to be using this,
okay, thank you.
the dirt from the highway project, more or less on Frenchtown Road, Norris Park, or the Norris School Park, and I believe the Depot Park.
Okay, thank you.
So I was wondering when you're to solve the problem with the dust on the Little League Park. Last year, your city manager assured me, well, didn't assure me, he told me he was going to put road binder or water over there. He did none of it. This has been 4 years now. I can't open my windows in the spring, summer, or fall because you got 36 cars going back and forth in the parking lot 6 days a week. So I'd like the city to solve this problem. And then I don't know if you want to discuss it now, but I was here a couple weeks ago about the snow problem over there where the snow was drifting from the park. And you told your public works supervisor to analyze the situation. He told me I got a hell of a drift. He told me point blank, the city's not going to put a snow fence there, and he advised me to plant trees. I can't plant trees. It's city property. If I dig a hole, I'll be in jail. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other citizens wishing to address the commission on items that are on the agenda? That takes us to item F, presentation, update on the History Prize project.
Hi, my name is Mara McKay, and I'm here with my assistant, our marketing director for History Prize, Sandy Sharp. And we are thankful to have a few minutes of your time to present you History Prize. For those of you who may not know about the project, this is a creative platform for historians, artists, and history lovers of all kinds to come into our community, put up exhibits, which could be in the form of living history exhibits, artistic expressions that are historically inspired, say the Doughboy, a sculpture, or a mural, like the Miners Memorial mural would be a classic example of a fixed exhibit, or it could be a small painting. In addition to those two categories, there's also collections that would be part of this experience. So what we're developing is, again, a creative platform. History Prize brings together the venues and the exhibitors, and we are looking at approximately 200,000 people coming here in 2016 to experience History Prize. Our goal to create this event is $1 million. Our minimum to pull it off would be probably about $500,000, but we are obviously shooting for the higher end. We would like to see support coming from the local level, regional, and both states, Wisconsin and Michigan. In your binder, there's a lot of information that's preliminary, that's project objectives, that goes into the details of what we're developing. But I'd like to turn your attention to the fund development overview, which is the page that looks like this. And if you can take the first one that says national on it, and then you can go all the way down to local community. Everyone is there, I'll proceed. If you look at local community, we're talking about $100,000 from area pots of money to support the development. Why are we asking for this? Because this is a very different location than where they put on a similar event called Art Prize. Art Prize occurs down in Grand Rapids. It's been happening for 5 years. When they first started, they started with a similar pot of money, and now they're up to $500,000, and they get $22 million in economic stimulus each year. Again, our playing field and our environment here, as we all know, is very different. It's rural. We don't have the same corporate partnerships that we would down there if we were reaching out in that environment. So we are looking for small investments from community partners such as City of Ironwood, City of Hurley, Chamber of Commerce, on both sides, ctty, Downtown Development Authority, etc. That is our local community. And then if you can kind of look at this picture as far as more broadly speaking, regional, both states, nationally, we'll be searching for this money to bring to Ironwood and position ourselves as a international tourism destination. Of course, that will take some years, but if you look at what our prize has done, they are drawing from every part, every state in this country and bringing people in to celebrate the arts. We expect that we will do the same in regards to history. So we're asking for your consideration in regards to this project, and just like you to take some time to think about it, look it over. We have specific details in there. In addition to the piece that we just looked at, there is a project fund development portion of this that actually overlays all of my grant explanation and all the fund development pieces that we would normally think of for a nonprofit, but I can only give you the best local example of what product fund development means, where I talk about books, crafts, event merchandise, and program services. And that if you look at locally, the Historical Society in Hurley, how they make the rugs and they sell the rugs to keep their heat on and pay for their utilities, what I am doing is donating my personal book series called History CPR to the History Prize Project to be essentially the rugs. So if you overlay what we're looking at for fund development, I'm also bringing in, because obviously I'm not Rick the Boss, I don't have a lot of money like that, but I do have a very successful book series. And so that product is what I'm donating personally and what our team expects to be our rugs, if you will. In closing, I know that this seems like a very enormous project, and I just would like to bring two things to your attention, and that is that we're sitting in the memorial building. And the memorial building was built by a few big thinking women, strong women who went and got the money, who incorporated the hands of many and the help of others, and they reached out all across the country, all across the region, and they made it happen. Our small group, essentially some strong women, is embarking on this endeavor to reach out locally, regionally, across the states and across the country. We would really like your support. I am also going to turn your attention to a gift that is sitting over here. This is being given to the City of Ironwood from our local historian on behalf of History Prize and in the spirit of the Smithsonian exhibit, which will be coming in 2015, because we know that history unites. And we're looking forward to that. So I'm going to unveil this now, and that's really the end of my presentation, but I would accept your questions if you have some now, or if you'd just like me to return it another time after you review the materials.
I have a question. So this $1 million in fund development, is it basically like a Kickstarter where after $1 million were to be raised, it would sort of, you wouldn't need $1 million again? Or
Correct,
it would-
we would be at that point self-sustaining, and we would be looking for the city year after year after year. We expect that at a place as Art Prize has done, and I encourage each one of you to take a few minutes, and if you'd like some additional materials on what Art Prize has done, you can find them either online easily by just typing in Art Prize and economic development, or I can send those to you, but it is self-sustaining. They're doing very well. Coincidentally, they just embarked on their first book project, so now they're using books as a fund development tool, but they're very successful, and we would believe, yes, Mr. Simmons, we would be self-sustaining.
Could you give us an overview of your organization, your structure, how big the enterprise really is?
Currently, our organization consists of 3 main volunteers: operations, marketing, and we also have public relations. So myself, Sandy Sharp, and Sandy Kate Harden, we're all business owners here at Ironwood. We are the core. We also are working with local historians and other people that are in our region and in our area, from Bessemer to Hurley, Mercer to Wakefield. We're also working with board members that are inclusive of Marquette, the Regional History Center, so Kate Heibel is on our board. We're reaching out currently to other board members, such as the Henry Ford, who, when we were at the governor's conference, said to us, "We will be there. We will sponsor you." They are looking at being a board member, and we hope to hear back positively affirming that position. Also, we're looking at partners such as the State Historic Mackinac City Park, which is the longest living history exhibitor, and they said as well, we will be there. They look forward to performing here in Ironwood. So those are a handful of the exhibitors. I could go on and list further names if you'd like, but if you get a flavor of it, those are some of the names, and that's how far we're reaching at this time to bring in other people. We are working with Wisconsin as well, so it's a 2-state endeavor, and we expect to be writing GEM grants. That's their particular process, but we'll also be working with Pure Michigan, who, as another example of the support that we're seeing statewide, the director, who coincidentally is retiring this year, but he has been a force to reckon with. He developed all the Pure Michigan Tim Allen ads. He came up and said, outstanding, and gave his full support, and has been in touch with us about this. So we are working on those partnerships, state, regional, and hopefully eventually nationally. Does that answer?
Well, I guess I was more, well, that does partially answer it, but I was wondering, are you going to have a 501c3?
Yes, we have applied for our 501c3. The standard waiting period is 90 days. We have had an attorney process our paperwork, so we're just in a holding pattern for that, waiting on that paperwork to come back, typically 90 days. So when that comes in.
You know, people were to donate or fund you in some way, there would be...
Currently, we can accept donations. We just cannot tell you that it will be tax deductible at this time, because obviously you need a letter of designation for that to occur. But we are going to put out a Kickstarter, which means that people will get like a t-shirt for a $20 donation or something like that. And while we're waiting, we are still aligning ourselves with all of our partners. We're writing our fund development requests, even though we're not going to submit them until we do have our letter of designation in what we expect to be about 90 days. And I'll unveil this if you
have a quick
yes.
question. For your goal in the first year, how many exhibits are you?
We're looking at 1,000 exhibitors, and in your materials, we can look through this a little better. We're looking at 1,000 who will pay $100 each. So let's say Miners Memorial Heritage Park, who we would hope would be one of those, would have a $100 venue charge or fee, and then they would be able to accept exhibitors that they like from all of those entries that we receive. And another example would be the memorial building itself, perhaps, or a business owner. So think of any business, River Valley Bank, if they wanted to put in a historical display in their bank, people would then come in there. And that's exactly what they've done in Grand Rapids. They fill every nook and cranny, they invite every business to participate, and many, of course, do mini benefit on the side. So when you walk into a location, of course, you can also see their materials if you wish. So if it's in a museum, say it was in a historic depot and they wanted to put out their memberships, of course, they probably have a membership increase when people came to their building to see the exhibits.
Our park is pretty exciting in Grand Rapids, so I appreciate your vision.
Thank you very much. It is very successful.
Questions for Ms. McKay?
Thank you very much.
Kim, you want to do a photo op, maybe, Kim? I'll take your picture.
So that was the 125th birthday present from History Prize in the spirit of the Smithsonian and from Mr. Larry Peterson.
And Mickey, Larry Peterson did that, I assume that's pen and ink?
Pencil.
Pencil, very nice.
Who's that?
Larry. Very impressive artist. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, new business. Item G, discuss and consider authorizing advertisement to bid for roof replacement at the DPW garage UPS building.
Thank you. This is one of the projects that are identified in the city capital improvement plan. It has been budgeted for this year. And again, this will be down at our Department of Public Works. Also, UPS shares that building. That is a city-owned building. The roof on the DPW side was, I think, done a number of years ago. And the UPS side still needs to get basically a overlay on it, if you will. So with this, if you authorize us going forward, we'll put out bids, come back with competitive bids for you to review, and go from there.
It's been budgeted.
It is budgeted, yes.
Make a motion, we authorize the advertisement for bid described in item G.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Semo, second by Commissioner Kayer to approve authorizing advertisement to bid for roof replacement at the DPW garage UPS building. Any further discussions or concerns on this item? All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item H, discuss and consider change order number 1 for the downtown art place DAP HVAC system.
Again, this is for the city-owned building. Started out as a Blaine building, has become a city center building. And a few months back, the City Commission did award a contract to Muckovitz Heating for $25,000 to start. They put in a number of heating systems within the building itself. Again, at that time, we didn't have all the funding available to finish the project. There was enough dollars to do the first phase. So we are bringing this back as a change order to amend the original contract and include the remainder of that work. So again, you had previously approved $25,000. This change order would be for $48,080 for a total project of $73,080. And again, the funding is coming from a series of funding sources. There was an Energy United rebate program that was taken advantage of. There's some in-kind contributions from Muckovitz Heating. The DAP has put together donations that we've received for this. And the city, in conjunction with DAP, also received a McCotta grant from the Michigan Council for the Arts grant. So that combination of funding will pay for this. There are no direct city funds involved with it.
I'd like to commend Muckovitz Heating for their in-kind contribution as well. Substantial number. I'll make a motion, we authorize change order number 1 described in item H.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Semo, second by Commissioner Kayer to approve change order number 1 as noted in item H. Any further discussion or concerns on this item? Do a roll call.
Semo?
Yes.
Sim?
Yes.
Power?
Yes.
Care?
Yes.
Program?
Yes. Item I, discuss and consider authorizing distribution of the comprehensive plan per section 41.2 of the Michigan County Enabling Act 2008.
All right, thank you. Before this evening is more of a technicality. As you know, we're going through a comprehensive plan update. At the Planning Commission's meeting earlier this month, they took the steps necessary to distribute the plan to the City Commission. Per the act, the city commission needs to distribute the plan to the affected agencies that are required to be notified of the planning process per the state requirements. So the action tonight is authorizing distribution of the plan to the affected agencies per the planning, section 41.2 of the Planning Act.
Did we say when we approve this, will the plan be available to the public for review?
Not at this time. This is for just those distributions to those agencies. Right now, internally, staff as well as multiple boards and commissions within the city are reviewing the draft plan. After the next May Planning Commission meeting, which is May 7th, the plan will be made available to the public for draft review. Also in May 19th, I believe is the date, Monday, May 19th, we're going to be scheduling a public open house where the public come in and review the plan, talk with staff, talk with the planning commission, talk with consultants, and provide more comments. And then throughout June, necessary revisions will be made based on the comments we've received. And then in July is when the plan will be up for public hearing and consideration for adoption. So come the beginning of May, the plan will be available for public review. The reason we're doing this distribution now is because the planning law requires a 63-day review period by these affected agencies that are stipulated in the law. And in order to run that congruently with the other reviews, we're doing this at this time.
Commissioners, any further questions?
I'd like to make a motion, we authorize the distribution of the comprehensive plan as described in item I.
Motion by Commissioner Semo, second by Commissioner Tower, to authorize distribution of the comprehensive plan as noted in item I. Any further discussion or concerns on this item? All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item J, discuss and consider setting vendor fees for the City of Ironwood Farmers and Artisan Market at Depot Park.
All right. Last year, as you recall, was the first year that we put together the Farmers and Artisan Market at Depot Park. It was the first year, kind of a trial run. At that time, the City Commission waived any fees for that to encourage participation in the program, in the events. Subsequently, we did fairly well last year. Obviously, the weather didn't help with the produce side of things, so it was a little later than usual. But what we're looking at this year is to start the program, the event, the first Friday after Festival Ironwood, which would be July 25th, I believe, and then run through every Friday through the end of September. What we talked about, and we talked about this with the staff, the farmers market manager that we had last year, Rich Duncanson, which is going to continue to do that again this year, and the IDA about setting fees. The purpose for these fees, if the city were to decide to set fees for them, would go directly for advertising and marketing of the events. So newspaper ads, radio spots, more signage to direct traffic throughout town to get to the Farmers and Artisans Market. So we reviewed this with the DIDA because it's in the Depot Park. It's part of the blueprint plan, kind of their project undertaking. They recommended to set fees for this upcoming year. Our recommendation is $20 per season or $3 per week. There may be some vendors that may only be interested in coming a few times, so it doesn't make sense to have them pay for a full season. They can pay per event, per day if they want to. Again, these fees would come through the city and then be used for marketing purposes. So at this time, no official action is needed, but we just like direction on if you're interested in setting fees based on these recommendations, so that when we come back to you during the budget process with the fee resolution, it'll be reflected in that resolution when you approve it later this year.
Commissioner, any questions?
And clearly you're comfortable with these amounts? You feel they're...
Yes, based on the research that Rich Duncanson has done, many vendors even last year when they attended were surprised we didn't charge fees, because they just expect that wherever they go and they do these events, there's a fee charge, because they understand that there's the marketing and advertising, and they feel that that's appropriate because they're getting an exposure that otherwise wouldn't have. So.
It just seems really low, but I don't know what is customary in these events.
Right, and this is based on the research that Rich has done. And again, each year we can evaluate if it's too much, too little, if it's effective or not.
And we talked about in the idea that we don't want to chase anybody out. The more people we can get in there, at least for the first couple of years, would be better than try and get it rolling.
Right. And again, it's not a moneymaker for the city. It's, like I said, any fees that we take in will be directly designated for advertising, so it's not going to pay anybody's salary or fund anything else in the city. It's directly related to the marketing and the farmers market itself.
I'll make a motion, we approve well, we don't have to approve them yet. Well, what should we do here?
I mean, if you want to, any kind of motion just to say, yes, let's move forward, that'd be great, or just, if you guys are comfortable with it, we'll bring it back and keep us position later this year.
I'll make a motion, we move forward with setting the fees as described in our documentation.
Second?
Motion by Commissioner Sino, second by Commissioner Sin to move forward, setting vendor fees as described with item J. Any further discussion or concerns with this item? All those in favor, aye. Opposed, motion carries. Item K, discuss and consider identifying location and terms of distributing film from the US 2 construction project for public purposes.
All right. We've been talking about this for a little bit with the Parks and Rec Commission and Miners Memorial Heritage Park Group. The need for fill in Miners Park. A number of years ago, the Miners Group and the city approved a plan for potential fill locations, low areas that we know that have some danger issues, places we want to fill in to flatten it out and make it safer for people. Parks and Rec discussed this with the Miners Group at their last meeting earlier this month. They made a recommendation based on this map here of 5 different sites within Miners Park. There's an additional map that showed additional 2 locations from the previous plan that was approved that will also be added to this. The map didn't get into your packets. But the general concept is, with the US 2 project, there's going to be a lot of fill that's going to be taken out of the ground when they rip up the road. Contractors have to pay one to haul that material off-site, as well as pay a dumping fee or a tipping fee. What we thought to help out the contractors and the city is to say, we'll allow you to place your fill in areas in the city that we know we need and desire fill. If you put the fill down, spread it to the city's desire, topsoil it, seed it, it's a win-win for everybody. It's going to be a lot less money and time and effort that the contractors have to put into it, and they're going to be saving a lot of money. In addition, the Parks and Rec Committee recommended a small fee be charged to the contractors for the placement of fill. Those fees would then be reflected and be used for other projects within Miners Park. The Miners Group has a number of projects that they want to tackle and take care of. The city hasn't been funding projects there, so they're not using city dollars. They've been doing everything that's been done in the park on their own. And small fee, even if it's a small fee, the contractors should be, they're going to be saving a lot of money by using this concept. So really tonight what we're kind of looking for is your direction to move forward to work with the contractors for the US 2 project as well as the Phase 3 project on, if they're interested, placing their fill in the Miners Park and any other areas that the city has interest in.
Have you approached the contractors yet?
I have not directly. I know we've kind of talked about the concept, and people have actually come and asked. I know different contractors.
They've come and asked when they were bidding the project. At that time, we weren't prepared or ready to accept anything, so they had to make their own provisions where they would bring it. This would be potentially another option for them to consider, if it's acceptable.
Why would we be charging them a fee to bring stuff to us, followed by then putting down seed and grass? That seems, I don't know, that seems kind of greedy on our part.
Right, and again, the concept at least was to try to accomplish other projects within the park. You don't have to charge a fee. That was just a recommendation that Parks and Rec.
But maybe just to add to that fee question, the contractor does figure when they bid a project, their cost to dispose of that material. And that can be hauling. They may have to pay somebody to put it on their property if they don't have their own property to put it on. So they've already, and we don't know what that number is, have a dollar amount that they're charging someone to get rid of that material. So if we can save them a little money maybe it makes sense to charge a fee, because at the end, they've already got it built into their contract, if you will, something for that. So.
And it could be the contractor won't even be interested in this at all.
And he may not be
A
interested.
whole other idea.
So why wouldn't we should not charge them a fee and give them every incentive to come dump their stuff in our area and make it look nice? I don't know.
Some of their fill is not very nice sometimes.
It's definitely an advantage. Not every, the contractors may already have their own disposal site, and they got it all figured out. But it can be an advantage to them financially also, to find something that's closer. And if they can save hauling distance, that's direct compensation or, revenue back to them. Plus, they've already figured the cost to get rid of that fee in the bid. So I think, again, you want to be reasonable about it, but I think it's a double win possibly to improve the site. And there could potentially be a little bit of revenue generated from this, legitimately, because the contractors have figured that into their bid already, there's going to be a cost for them to dispose of it. And if they don't want to use this, they don't have to, it just would be an
They won't
option.
be held to it.
Absolutely, no, it's just an option for them.
And if they do decide to, they're interested in this option, it'd be a separate contract, I believe, between the city and the contractor.
Mhm.
So what would you like to have in the motion?
Well, I guess just mainly direction, if you like the concept, to give staff to go ahead and work with contractors on it. Obviously, fee is another component to that question. So I guess the first question is, do you want to move forward and have staff negotiate fill locations with the contractor? And secondly, would you be interested in charging a minimal fee?
Well, I kind of agree with Mr. Sim that if we can get the contractor at minimum to do a good job and we pay it up, we've succeeded in a positive way.
I don't think a small fee is unreasonable for the city to charge these people for dumping stuff that they're going to pay for anyway. I don't know what that fee would be. We have to determine that. And negotiate with them. They should be charged a small fee for the convenience of dumping so close to that product. It's a benefit for us, but it's also a benefit for them too.
Well, I'll make a motion that we direct city staff to move forward with developing a plan with the contractor and determining whether or not a fee is reasonable.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Semo, second by Commissioner Towers to direct city staff to develop a plan with contractors to identify a location and terms of distributing fill from the US 2 construction project and for public purposes.
There may be other projects too, not just limited to the US 2 project.
Any further discussion or concerns on this item? All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item L, discuss and consider approving the BSNA proposal for new computer software and services and authorize appropriate signature.
Thank you. We touched on this a little bit at the budget workshop. There was a memo in your packet. The efficiency of the city's finance department is heavily reliant on the computer software that we have. We currently, with our current software company, we have 6 really main applications that we use to account for revenues, account for expenditures, and compile the financials. General ledger, accounts payable, cash receipts, payroll, utility billing, and fixed assets are our main 6. We also have BSNA software as a company that we use for our taxes, delinquent personal property taxes, assessing and building. So the 2 softwares need to communicate with each other, mainly the tax and the general ledger, getting the tax revenue into our system. Sometimes that has been a challenge for us. We've been researching this over the past, since I've been here 2.5 years, and I know my predecessor was looking at it as well. Many municipalities, especially in Michigan, are making the change from whichever software they have over to BSNA.net. That's become very popular. very user-friendly, and the things that can be done with it that are very advantageous to municipalities. Main reasons for this request are software functionality, compatibility and communication with our tax software, and customer service. We've experienced barriers in all of these areas over the past couple of years, and it's resulting in computer downtime, workload bottlenecking, reporting delays, and audit issues. Some of our turnaround time has been as long as a month to get issues fixed. We've negotiated aggressively with BSNA on prices, application costs, data conversion costs, and training costs. They've gotten down to the amount that's in the packet today. They've also indicated that they would honor a 3-year financing because they had proposed that last year. Anything going forward with any new proposals that they issue out, they're limited to 2 years financing, both at 0%. So the applications, again, are the 6 that we currently have now. Also requesting a miscellaneous receivables application for tracking purposes. Right now, we do a lot of things manually. It takes a lot of staff time. And business license on the clerk's end of it. Right now, we're using a homemade program through Access, Microsoft Access. And the application would allow it to communicate with our accounting software and track things better, allow us to read data better. We've got the applications, the data conversion is built into that, the training, the implementation, go live support. It's all included in there for a total cost of $70,360. Let's face it, is a very hefty number. Surprisingly, we kind of worked that down to a higher number. But going forward, there would be an annual service fee, which we have now with our current software. And BSNAs are relatively equal to the annual service fee. So there would be no increase there. So tonight I'm asking for to go forward with that. What that means is we're committing dollars going forward. We wouldn't go live if this was approved today until 6 months. We have to get in line by commission approval and then get in line with other municipalities. They predicted October, November as a potential go live date. If this is maybe not approved today, we'd come back with it and kind of extend that further. But what this means is we're asking for $17,500 roughly of this year, next year's budget, 2014-15, which we're currently in the works of trying to figure out. This would be committing dollars from that budget for next year and then in the 2 years following to get this in place. Any questions?
So did we budget for this at all in our 2013-14 budget?
We've essentially assigned about $17,500 for that in our current budget in fund balance, setting it aside for this big project. We knew it was coming up, we knew we wanted to do it, so we put some fund balance aside, hoping that we would move forward with it. So those dollars would come off the top in the first year. So if this is roughly $70,000, we took that assigned fund balance and paid that off right away, $17,500 of that. That brings us down to $52,500. Divide that over 3 years. So it's committing funds of about $17,500 each year for the next 3 years, starting in the 14-15 budget year.
And Paul, maybe to add in, the program you're using now is called Fund Balance, one of the programs that you use for financial tracking.
Correct.
And again, that program is essentially becoming obsolete. They're not supporting it as they used to. Long lead times when you have problems, a lot of downtime, staff downtime. So again, we've talked about this pretty thoroughly about this is a long-term investment for the city. And again, it is the financial management program or tool that essentially the vast majority of cities are utilizing. So it is well supported and it's what the city needs going forward. So if you don't do it now, you probably will be doing it in a few years. And there is a funding mechanism now that's available to stretch out over 3 years. That's why we're bringing it to you at this time.
Okay.
program have like upgrades, like do you know, like upgrade of it, or do you just buy it during the time that you buy it and that's the version you get?
So it's called the BSNA.net version is what it's called. They have upgrades that they do to the system automatically, which are included in the cost of that. If BSNA were to do a full, say, application, or I'm sure application is the right word, but if they did themselves internally a full upgrade, kind of like Windows 7, Windows wherever, then we would have to work with them to what are they doing. Recently with our tax software, which we've had with BSNA for many years now, they run what they call a pervasive operating system. They moved to the .NET version, no longer supporting that pervasive. So we made that change a couple of years ago, or last year, the .NET version. So that would be kind of, I think, what you're alluding to.
Yeah,
They
exactly.
kind of change their operating software. Then what? At this time, the .NET version is the newest that they have. Finding that it's really great. I mean, we love it internally with the taxes and the operating systems that we have with them. I've heard nothing but positive comments from other treasurers and finance directors on the software. Most recently, the city of Marquette, they have everything with BSNA.net, including applications that are listed here that really streamline the process of purchasing from its first step all the way through and keeping track of things. A lot of places are just going paperless with it, where invoices come in, they get scanned in. The proper requests for approvals go up to the department heads. Department heads approve them, right down to the process to cut a check. It's really streamlined, it's saving a lot of time. With staff levels decreasing, or that have decreased, over the past few years, it's really put more workload on less people, and this software allows us to do things quicker, more efficiently, and more effectively.
Commissioners, thoughts, questions?
Well, I'm wondering, but I guess we kind of do.
Yeah, the software that we have now, again, on the accounting side of it, I won't call it out of date, but I think what's happening is so many municipalities are moving to this BSNA.net that this company is shrinking. And as they shrink, their employees shrink. And as that happens, when we need customer service, they have less employees to help us out. We're having longer lead times. Again, I think we're getting less knowledgeable people working on our problems, maybe trying to figure them out for their first time. Sometimes we have multiple problems, recurring problems. Like I said, we have one issue that took a month to fix, and it was right in the course of our budget with our fixed access. So,
What do you think, how many years will we get for this $70,000?
well, this is been 2.5 years, so I guess nothing's been on a date since I've been here.
The old system we've had for about 18 years. So they do kind of stay in for a long period of time before they.
Well, even if we got 10 years out of it, that would be a comforting thought.
Nothing with computers is cheap, and change so rapidly sometimes.
There are no guarantees. Well, I don't see a whole lot of choice. I think we need to approve the purchase of the BSNA software as described in item L, and approve the appropriate signature.
I'll second the motion.
Motion by Commissioner Semo, second by Commissioner Tower, to approve the BSNA approval as noted in item 12. Any further discussion or concerns on this item? Roll call.
Sim,
Yes.
Tower,
Yes.
Care,
Yes.
Seymour,
Yes.
Corcoran.
Yes.
Thank you.
Item M, discuss and consider authorizing advertising to bid the sale of the obsolete sewer line camera and rotor.
Currently have an obsolete water rooter and obsolete camera we used for years to televise the sewer lines that we no longer use. Camera, we use parts corners to a place out of St. Louis, that's about it. We do have 2 new items we've been using for 3 or 4 years anyway, so it's just sitting in the garage and to advertise for bids, I think I minimum bid of $40 each item.
I'll make a motion, we authorize the advertisement to bid for the sale of these 2 items.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Semo, second by Commissioner Towers to authorize advertising of bid for items voted item M. Any further discussion or concerns in this item?
Other than just to say that, you know, I was walking by the DPW yesterday, and it seems like there's been some cleaning up and straightening up going on there, but I'd encourage DPW to continue assessing what's there and disposing of things that are functional anymore. That's all.
All right, we have a motion by Commissioner Semo, second by Commissioner Tower. All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. We move to item N, that brings us to item O, discuss and consider rental lease agreement with Marion Morgan at the city center.
Yeah, this is a standard lease agreement. This is for Suite E836. They must have at least one spot left over there that they all filled up. And it's for $50 a month, $5 of donated labor, and there's a $100 security deposit, pretty consistent with the other lease agreements.
We'll make a motion, we approve the lease described in item O.
Before we approve it, there's a typo. It says it starts on May 1st and ends on June 30th of this year. I'm assuming that's not correct.
Actually, what they are doing is lease agreements are ending at that point in time, because prior to that, the goal is to turn over and have a separate agreement with the DAP. And again, all these lease agreements said they would have a separate agreement with the DAP. So the DAP was asked, and we concurred also that they'll terminate on that date with the idea that it's going to turn over to them, and then they'll handle all the lease agreements from that point in time.
What about the older lease agreement approved?
Those will have a sunset date. Again, there'll be some that will still, they'll accept those lease agreements and be turned over to them, but the date will be, whatever was approved previously.
We will still be approving them then, or not anymore?
Not at, well, right now you will until that official agreement gets signed. You guys have reviewed it already. That's sent to the DAP. There were a couple little changes they wanted to see, so we're going to be bringing that back to the city commission. But our goal is by the end of June that transaction will take place. Really turn over the full operation down there to them. A lot of it's administrative, tracking, the agreements and taking in costs and that type of thing.
So it's not a typo.
It is actually not a typo. Yep.
You feel
Very, very good point.
So, you feel comfortable when you're with the manager rented?
They've been working through this. Again, it's a new entity. They've had good growing pains. They've come a long way. They're getting their financial people in place, taking over. Paul's been working with them, up to this point. And even though we hand it out to them, it's not like we're going to totally step back. We want them to be successful. So if there's a transition period in there, again, they're going to take over the financial administration and tracking everything, and we're going to hand that over to them. But they're getting their ducks lined up to, make sure that that can happen and get the right people in place.
We still have the final say though.
Absolutely. On the building, yes. The building is still owned by the
Who's
city.
occupied in the building?
Not who would be occupied, that'd be through that, with this agreement. They would look at the, just like you do now, people coming in. Actually, these are actually reviewed by the DAP before you get them. They look at them and then make a recommendation, is that the right fit, for the building down there. So the idea is to really take that administrative responsibility of renting that building out of the city's hands and, giving it to the DAP. And it's very similar, not that they rent space, but similar agreement that we have with the theater. They handle basically the whole operation of the theater, doing their programming, that type of thing. And we really don't have a liaison with them. So we don't really get involved in the administrative part of that effort. So again, the DAP would be a similar type of entity. They do all their administrative processing of agreements or all the other things that they do as the downtown arts place. And we would still have a liaison with them, but really be out of that direct involvement. And again, that agreement will come back to you, so if you have different thoughts or ideas, you have a chance to get into that agreement. But that was the concept, at least going forward previously.
Any further questions? Okay, a motion by Commissioner Seymour, can I get a second? Motion by Commissioner Seymour, second by Commissioner Tower to approve the rental lease agreement as described in item O. Any further discussion or concerns on this item? All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion
Nay.
carried. Okay. Also for aye, and then opposed, Commissioner Carey. Motion pass. Okay. Item P, discuss and consider request from Mara McCabe for release from her city center lease.
Mara has submitted a request. She's in a lease agreement for her space. She would like to move her operation from that space to some other location. So she is asking, there are two parts of the agreement, one is her, one is the city right now, to be released from her contract with the city. And then the DAP would, if approved, would then rent that space out to someone else.
Looking at the release from the agreement, and part of the request is a refund for the month of April.
My recommendation, again, you can date it however you like, my recommendation would be to, if you do approve it, make it effective as of today's date, because she has had use of that space if she wanted to or not up to this point. She did request, reimbursement to the first of April.
I'll make a motion that we release Ms. McKay from the lease agreement as described in item O and authorize a rebate of the prorated portion of the rent effective today.
Support. Motion by Commissioner Semo, second by Mayor Corcoran to release Mara McCabe from her city center lease and prorate her refund as of today's date. Any further discussion or concerns on this item? All those in favor, aye.
I know.
Should have a roll call.
Okay, let's do a roll call.
Howard?
Yes.
Care?
Yes.
Semo?
Yes.
Sim?
No.
Corcoran?
Yes. Okay. Item Q, discuss and consider funding options for US 2 enhancements.
Thank you. We've been discussing trying to fund U.S. enhancements for probably well over a year now, looking for grants and other funding sources, and they don't exist out there that we found. So we did talk with the Michigan Department of Transportation. They do have a funding program. It's called their SID program, but it's a loan program, a county grant program, and they will loan funds to cities or public entities over a negotiated period of time. So that is available if you want to pursue it. Again, we've been talking about this relative to the marrying the pole lines and getting different style poles out there, a little more aesthetic pole. It won't be the real fancy poles, but it'd be a clean black composite pole. Again, located on the north side of US 2, they'd be running just on the north side, not staggering back and forth as they do now. And they would be eligible for this type of funding as well. Again, the DOT would go up to 10 years. It's a 3% interest loan. If you do it shorter than that, they would go up to a 10-year period, and you fund that over a longer period of time. And with that, if you wanted to fund any other aesthetic improvements or enhancements out there, the funds are, this pot of money is available for that. So if you just want to isolate it to the marrying the power lines, that's fine. The other things that we've talked about, just to refresh everybody's memory, is there's a little piece of sidewalk that the City Commission talked about, essentially by McDonald's between Greenbush and Curry. The DOT is prepping that area for a sidewalk. They're doing it as part of the project. That'll be graded out, ready to go to the sidewalk. If we want to do it in the future, if you want to do it now, you could include that with the borrowed funds and get that done with project construction. So I just throw that in there. And the other thing I was talking about, now this was a while back, again, it's fundable by them. We had talked about monument signs as you come in on each end of the city. Welcome to Ironwood, you see them in Ashland and other areas. You could fund something like that if you wanted to. I just throw it out there. It's available if you want to have that discussion and consider something like that.
I like signs, but I don't want to get my $5 one. So,
Did we identify a number just under 100,000 to do the both phases of the poles and lighting?
It was right around $100,000 in that ballpark. I have talked to XL Energy trying to get a final number, because they were going back Again, the request I think was to get a cost to put in a receptacle, an outlet for a plug-in, so they were costing that out also. And they also have come back that they have to, the wiring has to be a conduit, so there will be a slight upcharge for that. So again, I think it's in that $100,000 range. I'd asked them to fine tune, get a final number for us, and they're working on that. So we have to bring that back to the commission with the final number and agreement probably with Excel Energy to do that work. If we pursued this, we would start the wheels in motion with this loan program to let them know we are interested. And that final number, might be a little more than 100, maybe a little less than $100,000 if it's in that ballpark. If you just wanted to apply it to the lighting.
So we wouldn't have to determine the amount right now, just the concept?
We'll bring it back, just the concept, and we'll bring back to you any kind of final agreement, because it would be a DOT agreement also. That would have to come back to the city commission with the actual dollar amount identified in there. But Excel Energy did give us a report a while back with a couple different options, and it was in that $100,000 range. That's very important.
I think it's important that you move forward with this concept, or at least take a look at some numbers for us. We have one shot when we're doing US2 to get this done, so.
Well, I guess if what's required is approval of the grant application, is that, or the loan application?
Authorize moving forward with the loan application, and we'll bring it back to you as a document. But if you would take that action, then we know to work with the DOT to get that actually developed, that application.
Well, I'll make a motion that we move forward with the loan application with the final amount to be determined later.
And just for the lighting portion, is that, do you want to do any of the sidewalk? With that with it.
Well, I guess somebody mentioned to me that they had some concerns over the lighting maybe not being sufficient because it's so far back from the highway, if we're just doing the north side, because we have a green space in there. There's some concern that the lighting may not be sufficient because it's so far back. Is that something that you guys talked about?
I had talked to DOT about that. Again, right now your lighting is staggered back and forth. And what's proposed is lighting just on the north side. It wouldn't have to be behind the sidewalk. You have a 5-foot green space and a 5-foot sidewalk. So the light poles would be right behind the sidewalk. Then they'd have a mast arm that would extend roughly 10 feet, which would get it just into the curb line or that driving lane of traffic. And the question came up is, how is that going to look from a lighting standpoint? Legitimate question. I think it's going to look different than it does now because you have that staggered look. I did ask the DOT to show me some examples where they've done that. They did provide 2 communities that the poles were back at that distance. And I'm going to share that with Excel Energy too, so they can look at that. Because they haven't actually done that before. So the question did come up. They've done it in a couple other communities very similar to what we're doing. It will be a different look. The lighting will be, for the most part, all on one side of the highway. And it is going to be back at 10 feet. But I guess the positive part of that is it'll be easy for snow storage because we can go in there and clean that sidewalk off, that type of thing. And the reason they're not putting it between the sidewalk and the curb is there's a storm sewer that runs down there. And then there's a logical question, why don't we put it in that green space area? But there is an existing storm sewer that's in that area, and you can't physically get a hole in that 5-foot green space area for the majority of the route along those 2. But it's going to look different.
It would, eliminating the green space, I'm talking too fast. Is that something that you want to consider? Can that help with the lighting situation? Eliminate the green space?
You move those lights closer to the travel area. Again, your sidewalk then is going to be right on, and your snow storage. I think we're going to be challenged to.
Do we need snow storage? I mean, could they just extend the lane, just push the sidewalk at the time they're doing the highway? So do you need snow storage? And maybe it would make snow removal easier with, as far as sidewalk goes. You don't have to have a separate piece of equipment come through and move snow.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I know we talked about this before.
Is it even possible to change that now?
We can check if that's the direction of the commission with the DOT would take. And maybe they can, they haven't built it yet, they have to change their design. They've designed that sidewalk for the back part. So they have to just change the design, how it comes into the, basically your driveway approaches are going to be your biggest challenge. Getting it through that area. I can get you the locations where those other communities are too, where they've done exactly what is being proposed here. And if you've been through there, you can kind of get to visualize if you go through there what that looks like also.
guess the other thing we have to consider is, do you want a 5, 8, or 10-year loan? Is that something else you want?
That is, yeah, that's all, those are all options for you. It's the same interest rate, no matter how you.
Could you bring all of those options to us as far as like how long, the length of the loan, and some of that include the streetlights and the sidewalk option and the sign option? Is that too much?
We just touch on that part of it. We have the capability of running an amortization projection on what loan amount we would want, percentage of interest over how many years. So we could bring that, multiple options to the commission to see what annual debt service would be on different loans.
You've got some of that in the packet already for lengths of term. Again, it's one of those improvements, it's going to be there for a long time. You can, if you want to extend it out over a longer period of time, but it's up to the commission.
I kind of was leaning towards the 8-year. You're paying a little more of a payment, but you're not paying interest either. Okay,
I'm with that.
What else should we consider?
Well, somewhere along the line, we're gonna have to decide if we're just gonna do the lighting or if we're gonna do the lighting plus the other options.
Right.
I don't know if we're at that point now or not.
I'm thinking that I would probably like to see the lighting plus the sidewalk. I don't think, I would love a sign, but we haven't positioned ourselves very well as a good marketing image to be able to figure out what we really want that sign to look like.
Well, like this idea, we're just, at this point, my motion just authorizes setting up a loan. It doesn't say the amount, it doesn't say what it's for. And to move forward, we can vote on that and then have staff bring us numbers for the lighting plus the sidewalk, the lighting plus the sidewalk plus the signs, and we can decide which of those we want to put into it.
We can do that, and maybe we'll throw it, again, maybe we can do the amortizations pretty easily, so we can give you the difference of 3-year, 5-year, 8-year, 10-year, and then you can select from that also.
I guess I'm wondering how specific you want us to be tonight. Are you just looking for general direction tonight, or do you want us to be?
I guess general direction, if you were, again, projects moving forward pretty rapidly here. And again, burying the power lines is the key, that, we do want that to happen. And because Xcel Energy is designing that system as we speak right now. And so that's quite critical. And the other parts, the other sidewalk, you want to include that, or other parts, that kind of give you a rough ballpark. And the electrical, just to walk through the numbers, the varying power line is, I'll say, roughly $100,000. The sidewalk was approximately $30,000 in that ballpark. And then the monument signs it could be whatever you want it to be. A nice substantial one is about $50,000 each, but it could be scaled back to something less than that.
I'll second Rick's motion. Personally, I like the 8-year. I like burying the power lines. I like the enhanced streetlights if we have to do the sidewalk. A lot of people do walk between the English and the McDonald's. I'd say do that too. I would pass on the monument side. I think that's just how I feel.
Any further discussion? I have a motion by Commissioner Seymour and a second by Commissioner Tower to direct city staff to follow through with the loan application with the final amount to be determined. Some reason?
I would like to say that staff has gotten a concept of what we're looking for.
We'll bring it back to some options.
Okay, so a motion by Commissioner Seymour, second by Commissioner Tower. Any further discussion on this item? All those in favor, aye? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Item R, manager's report.
We'll cover a few items. There's quite a bit. Again, the report's getting longer and longer, and I think it's going to continue that way as summer starts progressing here. So I'll touch base on just a few of the critical dates or things going on. You've probably seen around town that Xcel Energy is doing a lot of work around the area. One of the side benefits, I guess, is Alphabet Boulevard. There's old towers that were up there and have been there forever. Those towers are coming down. If you go down there now, they actually have them chopped off. And that's going to really improve that aesthetic corridor going through that area, I believe. Well, different to the residents who have looked at those towers forever. just a nice little side benefit of some of the work they're doing. Ironwood Public Safety, they've been very busy the last few days and into the next week or so with hazmat training. Very extensive, thorough training process. Again, with the new equipment that the city has received for hazmat responses, and that's hazardous material responses. We're lucky to have that, and they're taking the initiative to get trained in on that. So again, a nice additional responsibility by our public safety for our community. Public safety also last year had 2 officers, I believe it was 2 officers trained in on being certified to check vehicle load limits.
Yes.
So they are certified, they are able to go out and do that throughout the community here. Again, protecting our streets from a lot of these heavy loads that we're seeing going through town. So they are prepared to do that. Actually, I think they have started doing that. Andrew, do you want to touch on that maybe a little?
They have started. The city did purchase scales. The station in Bessemer will be opening very shortly, or if not, opening this week. And they'll be doing motor carrier enforcement just to protect our streets, especially during this time of year with the weight restrictions and softer roads.
We have also heard just indirectly that maybe some of these heavier trucks are finding their way back to US 2, which is really good. That's a good result if that's happening. This Wednesday, for anybody that hasn't purchased their Packer tailgate party ticket, there's a fundraiser. It's going to be out at Powderhorn Mountain. It's for the both the Ironwood and Ironwood Township volunteer fire departments. They're working together on this fundraiser for the departments. And again, they bring some Packer players, have a tailgate party, and sounds like a real fun event. And just encouraging anybody that wants to get a ticket to participate. It's a good fundraiser again for the volunteer fire departments. They can get their ticket yet at Super One. And it'll be this Wednesday from 5 to 8:30.
Yes.
That's just encourage everybody to go out and get their ticket and support our volunteer fire departments. On the end of April, on the 29th, in the Memorial Building, they have an event called Family Fun Night. Public safety participates along with a lot of other businesses and entities. Very well received. Kids come over here and they have a lot of activities for them. So again, a nice event here at the Memorial Building, just to make everybody aware of that for the 29th. We have also scheduled the city cleanup day. This is where people can bring things to the dumpsters. We have it up Air Street next to the Ironwood Dance Company, and that is scheduled for Saturday, May 10th from 8 to 11. And hopefully by then some of the snow's gone, and it helps people clean up their yards and just get rid of some of that refuse they have a hard time getting rid of. And we also are looking for volunteers, anybody that wants to help unload cars and help out with that. It is a volunteer effort for helping to unload the cars at that event. On Wednesday, May 7th, the Michigan Department of Transportation, along with the City of Ironwood, we are hosting a public informational meeting for the US 2 project. And that will be for the whole public, anybody that wants to come out and hear what they have to say or what the project's about. There also is a direct mailing going to all the businesses on US 2, because it's going to cover both phases. Phase 1, and they'll go over the construction and what's going to happen during construction. And also they're planning and designing Phase 2. So we'll be talking with some of the Phase 2 business owners about their access and any questions they might have during construction. So again, the DOT did a press release that is going to the newspapers, the radios, and again, did a direct mailing to all the businesses along US 2 to make them aware of that. On Monday, April 21st, again, weather permitting, our Public Works Department is going to be working on Lake and Airbob. So that intersection will be shut down. We'll have a detour set up to allow them to get in there and do some work on some manholes. Again, the DOT is going to be milling and resurfacing that intersection, but we have some manholes that are tipped, and we got some issues out there that we need to correct with our infrastructure. So we'll be starting that, hopefully on the day project, but that intersection will be shut down, and we'll put notices out there for everybody so we can work around that. It's a very busy intersection in town. We are going to have our new waste hauler, Eagle Waste Management, starting on May 1st. And there'll be, there's always a transition. They're changing the pickup schedules from a 4-day schedule to a 3-day. So they've designed their pickup routes accordingly. We are sending out a direct mailing to every customer on the route that basically lays out their pickup routes with a map in there so you can see what date will be picked up. And also give a little bit of detail on, they have a new container, everyone get a container that they can put their waste in and roll that out to the curbside because it is an automated system that they'll be using to pick up.
Or was that brought up in the original contract? I don't remember ever talking about that.
No, it was,
All I remember the guy from Eagle Waste talking about is an optional, and if a resident wanted it. And all of a sudden, looks like we're all going to get garbage again.
we'll be getting the garbage can. That's what they propose and what they'll be providing out there. So hopefully it's a good thing. They've done it in other communities. It's been pretty well received. I mean, it's a transition. It's different than what people may be used to, but it's been pretty well received in those, at least in the other communities. So.
I don't think there's any change in their bid, it's the same price as we.
Well, when we made the motion and we voted on it, it was for 2 33-gallon cans. There was nothing to mention about a garbage can. Wheels on cart, unless it was optional.
They're going to a 64-gallon can. I know they're trying to automate their system.
And it's, how they can save money for our customers too by that automated process. We are actually reducing the collection rate. And if we had gone to the other system, it actually was quite a bit more expensive to go with that. So I think that's how they were able to initiate the savings for our residents by going to that more automated system. Hopefully it works well and, it improves their collection process. But that will start on May 1st, and the information is going out to the residents. When they drop that can off, there'll be another flyer attached to that, just redundancy, just trying to make people aware of the change that will come out with their pickup routes. And just last on the list, in the Memorial Building here, they've been receiving a little bit of a facelift in some of the public areas. There's been some painting going on. It's been 20 years now since they've done any painting and maintenance. So you'll see some of that going on in the downstairs areas. We've been working with the Historical Society, Sarah, John DeMario, and some others. They've been helping us with putting a theme, if you will, to the building here a little bit. With some color coordination and also with a picture program, historical pictures down in those foyer areas. So I think it'd be a real nice addition for the community, for the building, to show some of our history and start, leaving a legacy, I guess, for others so they can see what Ironwood was in the past. So again, that's work in progress, and we really appreciate, their help and the efforts that are being made in that area. That's the end of my report.
Other matters. I guess just kind of looking at the manager's report, May 10th, City Cleanup Day, and just advise staff and remind those folks that have blight notices that this is a great opportunity to get rid of some of their problems. Good job to public safety and DPW. I keep saying this over and over again with the plowing and the fine. But we ended up with that big old crater in front of Burger King, and that was just kind of a nasty situation. And the water leak, and then 10 inches of snow or plus on there. So thank you for taking care of that. I appreciate that. And just want to go on record for saying on behalf of the commission, thanks to History Prize folks and Larry Peterson for that nice artwork for our birthday, and I think it kind of went well with the theme that we had going on with the pictures. So that is all I have in other matters.
Well, I would guess I was thinking, as I was walking around the neighborhood, and the snowbanks are going down, and the light is starting to show up. Snow time like right now, we need to get going on our blight effort, and whatever we need to do to make sure that happens. So I would encourage.
Absolutely. That is the commission's number one goal of all the goals are set. So we'll take an aggressive approach with that and be out there and proactively, and also encourage people if they see something out there to call us and make us aware of it. And we have received a few of those calls. That's good. I mean, we appreciate the neighbors that do that, because we don't always know exactly what's going on. I had a contact the other day, just someone who had a neighbor's garage that was filling up with garbage, and we wouldn't necessarily know that, but they were living with it, so they make us aware of that, and we appreciate that, and then we follow up and we'll address those type of issues.
Any other matters? Okay. Item T, citizens wishing to address the commission on items that are not on the agenda, 5-minute limit, please, and please be respectful to the communication. This is not a time to belittle staff, but just a time to bring up your suggestions and your ideas to the commission.
Alder Officer Sheriff, Mr. Keir is right on the 2 cans. How's my mom, 85 years old, gonna drag that big garbage can out of her house when it's winter time? It was 2 cans. She could take a little plastic bag and walk out with her. She's not the only one with that problem. It's gonna be a mess winter time. When there's a foot of snow on the ground, how's she gonna drag that? How's these old ladies and these people living in their houses gonna drag that can out of their house? It's not gonna work. It's not gonna work. You were right, Joel. Thank you. And one other thing is these parks. I know the Parks and Recreation Committee, they want to put parks all over town. We do not need parks. Parks cost money. We need to finish Curry Park. Curry Park probably got a fuse box in it with pennies behind them. That's how ancient that system is. That has to be done. The Depot Park should be done with the playground equipment, and that's it. We do not need more parks. We need to fix our streets. Frederick Street, Air Street, Superior Street, Broadway Street, they're a mess. Nori Park. We need to fix our cemetery. You want to spend $100,000 to bury a wire? That's wrong. That's totally wrong. We need to fix our street before you bury a wire. And another thing is our light officer last year, he did not do his job. What was it? What was it? A handful of police, we got stuff done. Are we gonna have the same problem this year? Am I gonna be complaining about that house every meeting on Celia Street, the 1200 block again? More of that garage caved in, and the car's still there. Is this stuff gonna be cleaned up? Is this guy gonna do his job, or should he be fired? And another thing is, we do not need a community development department. We get to take that money, save that money. Fix our streets. We need our streets fixed. We do not need parks. We need our streets fixed, and our streets are bad. Go down Nori Park Road right now. You need an ATV to get down that road. That's how bad that road is. It's terrible. And am I right or wrong? I don't know.
Your comments will be considered. I just want to say whether you're right or wrong, but just some comments, that some of these projects and some of these departments all have different budgets. We don't have a big pool of money just to put, just on streets.
I know.
understand that the streets
Yes.
are bad. They're bad everywhere. And, there's probably different circumstances, I believe, behind the house that you were talking about in Cecilia. So if something warrants a little bit more discussion, I would suggest setting up funding to come in and talk about it.
I did. And it's a mess. And we do not need that department. That money that we gave with wages and benefits for community development, we can fix these streets. We do not need more parks. You write these grants for these parks, you gotta put more money in there. Plus you gotta maintain these things. These things cost money. Fix our streets. Pay all this debt. This city's in lots and lots of debt with all these projects, with these water, sewer, street projects. They needed to be done, but paid all the debt. I mean, that's all I gotta say. Thank you.
Just a reminder, too, just that has been a high priority to commission streets. We've done over 35 miles of street in the last 3 to 5 years. So you've taken a very aggressive approach to that, and I think it's quite well made.
It's great. What these people have done, it's great, it's super. You're long overdue. But there's a lot more improvement that has to be done.
There's still
The streets, the town is this long, it's big, it's a huge town. You just have to prioritize your money accordingly. Thank you.
Anybody else?
I'm the same thing as before. The Little League Park, last year, your city manager told me he was gonna put down a under or water. He didn't do it. He didn't do it this year. I was here about a month ago complaining about the snow, and your public works supervisor told me point blank, I got a hell of a drift. He told me the city is not gonna put a snow fence in there. And again, he advised me to plant trees on the city park. So what's the city, the Ironwood solution to this? This city dumped that dirt back there 4 years ago, 5 years ago and beyond, from, I think it was, the Norway Water and Sewer project. So when are you gonna solve this problem?
Now, are you talking about the new Little League park,
The parking lot.
the parking lot?
You got a dirt road that's say 20 feet long by 40 feet long, plain dirt. Your parking lot, you might have a piece of gravel here, piece of gravel here, another one here, and in between is dirt. Then you got the parking lot, more or less, which will be by the new field, which is all dirt. Then you got your new road that you built from more or less McLeod Avenue coming up the back way to the new field, which is all dirt. So the question is, when are you going to do road binder or water?
I don't have an answer for you, but we can look at it and talk about it as far as the commission. Right now, it's not one of our top priorities. Thank you.
Well, that's nice. Then I'll go down to Bessemer, the courthouse, and I'll seek an injunction against the city of Ironwood.
Thank you.
Maybe to add to that, again, the area behind his house was exposed for many years. Last year, actually, they did bruise the topsoil in there, put that second ball field in, and they had a real nice crop of grass growing. So again, not perfect out there, but it should really help with what he's been experiencing over many years. Won't solve every issue, but it should help that issue a little bit.
Excuse me, but I'm talking about the 36 cars that go back there 6 days a week. That's 144 tires going in and 144 tires going out.
Must be the existing gravel parking area, which is gravel, and it does dry up there a little bit. There's some dust.
Where do you live on Huron Street?
647. Here,
As soon as the snow melts, I'll come take a look.
Okay, anybody else?
It'd be a long walk for my old man.
Pensionitis, pensionitis.
Yeah. That was kind of a witty joke here. One of these guys in Ironwood, Michigan, that's my son, for those of you that don't know. And I've had this discussion with him, and I don't know if it was appropriate to bring it up tonight or not. But seeing as a number of parties have brought it up, I have to agree with Mr. Grubowski on that garbage issue. If you people don't believe me, or my son, or Paul, go back and look at the minutes of the meeting. That particular meeting I didn't attend, but believe it or not, there are people that sit at home and watch this and listen. It's not always the best picture in the world. I was under the assumption the garbage cans were not. The old way, drag the bags up. Okay. I'm not going to mention any names, but 2 snowstorms ago, and I listened to a radio station locally all day, Mr. Turbin. Oh, excuse me. After putting my garbage out, at 3 o'clock, the local radio station said that the department had called the radio station and said that the garbage trucks are not going to pick up the garbage. My garbage is picked up between 8:30 and 10:30, like clockwork. So you gotta put it out. Now, I don't think the garbage company called and said at 3 o'clock, we're not gonna pick up today. Okay? So all the garbage had to be dragged back in. All right? With my present garbage situation, Mr. Richards, my great plow drivers, they don't plow it down to the neighbors, they plow around. Very good. I'm assuming when I get these rules and regulations, Mr. Erickson, and this paper, it's going to say that your garbage can shall be placed between such and such and such and such. Right now, if my garbage is 12 foot in my driveway, these fellows come get it. I'm thinking the arm of the machine can only go so far. And I'm thinking he's not going to drive it into the snowbank because the street isn't going to be plowed by it. But I will be back to discuss this further when I get the rules and regulations. But I think you need to look at your minutes. I think you need to make a decision on the decision you made, which is either or. And if I am stuck with that garbage can, and the city of Ironwood plow hits it, it damages it, I will not purchase one at my own expense, which I was told I get one. Thank you.
Thank you.
Do you think we could have the gentleman from Eagle Waste come back?
If you'd like to, you can invite him back, we will have a discussion with him.
Well, I think these are some good points, that, I'm the one that actually brought up the concept that I didn't think we should be beholden to having a camera, because it's not gonna work for everybody. I wasn't even thinking about the snow issue, which is a big deal in our neighborhood. So I think that we do need to talk to this carrier about this somewhat.
Sure.
Maybe we can put them on the agenda.
Next agenda, we'll see if he's available, if you want to speak with you.
I would just ask how it's done in the Eagle River. I've talked to people in there, and they absolutely love the system. They couldn't be higher on it, and actually uses it. I'll make some phone calls as well to find out around how they work, but if we could get them here, that'd be great. Sure.
They had talked in Eagle River too, that even the elderly like it because it's got the wheels and it's easy to push. And I don't know if you have any options as far as maybe different size cameras that I don't know, but maybe if we get it.
Sure.
One size is not fit all, and I think that's kind of the issue here. The concept of an elderly person pushing around this thing through the snow, so it's really hard. You just push your shopping cart out in the parking lot, and it's so I think that we do need a little bit more information here.
All right, anybody else? Okay, item U, adjournment.
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Commissioner Peters, second by Commissioner Howard, to adjourn.